Hello and Happy New Year and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who can always be found at Paddy's Pub. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I think I would enjoy drinking there because there's no one ever there like to be responsible for tabs. But by the same token, you never know what you're going to get sucked into and you might die. So maybe not.
So today's show is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia 11. You may have heard this before. We've done one for Star Wars. We've done one for Marvel. We've done one for The Simpsons.
Presidents as well.
Today we're doing Always Sunny.
Yep.
And I think maybe it's worth putting a little caveat at the front. Always Sunny, not as mainstream as all these other shows.
No, it's
right?
returning for its 12th season, I believe, Wednesday, tomorrow, January 4th, which is why we're doing it now.
And the 10th season was just on Netflix. And also just because we reference
11th season just came on Netflix.
Right, and we reference it a lot on the show. It's a thing that we love. We want to start 2017 with a thing that we love.
Yeah, we do. So if you're not a Sunny fan, if you hate the show, I don't see how that's possible, but you might, then maybe this show is not for you. Tune in tomorrow. We'll be back to our usual soccer coverage.
Normal programming will resume.
Yes, but we do love the show. Worth noting that amongst the things that were included in my wedding were Daryl Grove giving a speech and Always Sunny in my vows, in which I apologized to my wife for quoting it way too often. So yes, that's about how involved Always Sunny is in my life and existence.
So if you don't know how these shows work, what's going to happen is Taylor and I have each picked an 11 players made up of Always Sunny characters, and we have reasons why each of those players should play in that position. We're going to start with goalkeeper, and I'm going to ask Taylor to name his goalkeeper first and tell me why that's your goalkeeper.
All right, my goalkeeper, I put a lot of thought into this because there are many characters it could be, but I think I've gone with the best one. It's Ronald Mcdonald, a.k.a. Mac's dad. Here are the reasons why. Number one, he's used to spending time restricted to a box, as he is frequently in prison, so he has no problem just staying in his area. He doesn't really want to be messed with. He wants everyone to leave him alone. I feel like that's what a goalkeeper is. But you also have to goalkeepers tend to be a little bit crazy, right? We've heard that many, many times. He's a little bit crazy, so I think he fits that bill. He's an expert at denying things, particularly Mac's love. So I think he'll be able to hold his own there. And the most important thing, he never blinks. So he's never going to take his eye off the ball. I think for all these reasons, he's the ideal goalkeeper.
That is magnificent. What's his name again?
Ronald Mcdonald.
Just Mac's dad, is that right?
Mac's dad, yeah.
Never blinks is the key one for me. All right, my goalkeeper is...
I don't blink.
My goalkeeper is Maureen Ponderosa.
Yep.
So she has two advantages here. One is the bad breath caused by her infamous dead tooth will repel anything, including soccer balls and opposition attackers. Second, if she has to make a save... she has cat-like reflexes.
She sure does.
Or at least she thinks she does.
I'm going to go ahead and cross off on my list of substitutes. I had her as my backup goalkeeper because she has cat-like reflexes.
Shall we move to the defence?
We can. I'll just add that she already has the bling in her dead tooth as well. So I think that she's already got that kind of footballer bling going on. I think it fits. Yeah, I like it.
All right, before we move on to our defenders, I just want to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Wolf Cola.
The right cola for closure?
That's correct.
And I believe Dennis is the executive vice president for worldwide distribution.
Right, that's how you contacted us. That's why they're sponsoring today's show.
Exactly.
We'll move on with our centre-backs. The way we normally do this is we announce a pairing, right? We have a centre-back pairing because the partnership is so important. Once again, Taylor. The reason I'm asking you to go first, it's worth saying you have a more encyclopedic knowledge of Always Sunny, whereas I just watch it like a normal person.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So I haven't necessarily gone for an obvious pairing because I think the pairings are necessary elsewhere. But I've gone with Ronald Mcdonald, a.k.a. Mac, and the lawyer for separate reasons. Okay?
I never put those guys together.
You wouldn't. But the thing is, you don't really want Mac and Charlie together because, as Charlie McDennis proves, they never really succeed together. And you do want Dennis and Dee together, but I don't think you want them in the defense because I think they're used to attacking people.
Okay.
So I've got Mac in defense because he's near his dad. So I think right away he's going to be more motivated to prove himself. We see that time and time again.
Right, I'll be trying to impress him.
I think also removing him from the gang proper, it tends to be a good thing for him. He tends to be a little bit more of a usual, normal human than when he's not around them.
That's true for all of them, right? They're all better apart and worse together.
Except when they actually do go apart and they end up kind of just doing the same behaviors. But yes, generally speaking. But most importantly, he's the bouncer of the squad, even if he's likely to run away or wet himself in tough spots. And most importantly of all, he can perform the ocular pat-down. So he would prevent attackers from getting by him. You know, that works really well. For the lawyer, he has no name, so I think the lawyer is a great nickname for a resolute defender. He's clever when dealing with straightforward situations. When he wants payment, he steals the copyright to kitten mittens.
Right.
But when you get him into more like involved, elaborate situations like the trial of the century, he kind of gets struggled. He gets caught in the details. So I think you don't want him involved in like big attacking play. You want him staying at home and just doing the simple things.
He'll be good at giving instructions as well. He's one of the few characters on the show that can explain things clearly.
Yes, but I get worried that he can get overly focused on revenge, as we've seen a few different times, and that can lead to red cards. So I think you've got to worry about that. But otherwise, I think that's a strong partnership.
He could appeal against the red card.
He could. He definitely could.
So I've gone for a straight up partnership. I've gone for two guys that do everything together and sometimes get nasty. It's the McPoyles. Ryan and Liam McPoyle are my centre-back partnership. They really do everything together. That's why the bloodline of the McPoyle has been pure and clean for 1,000 years. These guys would establish a hot and clammy environment that will be uncomfortable for opposition attackers. They will take the opponents hostage if needed. If anyone gets too close, they will confidently fork stab you, no matter who you are.
You've stolen all of my lines here.
If they get injured, you can pour milk on that injury. It will be healed. The only problem is Liam is, of course, missing his right eye, I believe. So Liam will have to play left centre-back. Keep an eye out on that one side.
That's where I've got him. But I'll let you finish up if you have more.
You've got him at left. No, you got him at left back. Then
I've got him at left back. Excuse me. Yeah.
No, that's everything with them at Poyles.
Okay.
I just think they're so gross and nasty that they will put off opposition attackers.
That's exactly what I have. He's so creepy that people won't want to be near him anyway. Because I did note that depth perception problem, so that's why I've got him at left back. But you mentioned that genetic bloodline being pure for 1,000 years. It means he's a genetic freak. Now that might not be the way you want that used when it comes to sports, but I think it's pretty accurate. I mean, yeah, and then I think you're right that he's going to be so creepy that no one really wants to go around him, especially when he asks attackers for fist bumps and then limply holds out his hand. He's going to
his goal celebrations would be awful.
Yep. He's going to blindly sign contracts. We saw that with the Maureen Ponderosa wedding massacre. So you could probably get him for cheap. And then, yeah, as you said, he loves hot temperatures, so playing in the summer, not going to be a problem.
So Liam McPoyle is your left back?
He is indeed.
Okay. My left back is...
Oh, and then if you mess with his side, you get fork stabbed.
My left back, what I've thought of is I don't want a Marcelo-type character who sort of wanders all over the field. I want someone who's going to be positionally disciplined. That guy is Ben the Soldier.
Okay.
Because he will stay in a hot car on a hot day and he won't even roll the windows down unless you tell him to. Also, people seem to think that he's injured. Turns out he's perfectly healthy, plus looks good in denim shorts.
I mean, obviously, and combat boots. And he won't have any issues of past trauma because, as we've learned, he has no PTSD because he did computers during the war, I believe.
All right, so let's switch to the other side then. Who's your other fullback? Who's your right back?
I mean, you want somebody who's going to intimidate opposition. So Liam McPoyle is going to creep everybody out, but you want a guy who no one's going to want to get near, and that's the Maniac. The Maniac is my right back.
Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper, yes. Who appears in 2 different episodes. He's not afraid to get bloody, as he makes very clear in his debut, and he loves a physical challenge because it's what the fans want. He's cleverer than you think in that he kind of absorbs the pyramid scheme later on and gets everybody working for him. He carries a ball of razor wire around with him, which means you're not going to mess with him.
You got to be careful.
But he's also got a bucket of chestnuts for no apparent reason. But I think that's protein. And people will do everything they can not to have to engage with him. They will go to the other side of the field rather than risk getting involved with the Maniac.
You don't want to go one-on-one with the Maniac.
And you definitely don't want to share a timeshare with him either.
So my right back is... I'm going to tell you with a noise. I'm going to do it off mic because it's gross. My right back is...
the snail?
Gale the Snail.
Gross.
Here's why. Man marking. Gale the Snail will stick to you, will not let you go no matter what. There's only one way to get rid of her. We know what it is, but we're not going to tell people. We won't tell the opposition how to get rid of Gale the Snail. Then she will stick to the left winger like a glue. That left winger will be taken out of the game.
She is going to aggressively grab people areas that will be comfortable.
She mashes it.
She does mash it. Oh, Gale the Snail. She is the most off-putting character on that show, and that's saying something.
So before we move on, I just want to let you know that today's show is sponsored by Lethal Weapon 6.
It's a testosterone-driven, male-skewing action melodrama, high-stakes adrenaline-pumping action, and in most ways, it's a love story between 2 men.
There are obviously budgetary and time constraints, but we ask you to please ignore them.
We do. Now, as we move on to the midfield, I think we're probably going to get more into the cast proper.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you have to have, and some of the other characters as well.
We have no gang members yet.
We do. Well, I have Mac.
Okay, yes,
that's
you do.
But I'll also say that I think as we advance further in, there's going to have to be a caveat that drug testing can't be allowed. Because if there's drug testing, my players are in for some trouble.
I mean, I feel like for this team to really work, there have to be all kinds of caveats.
I think so. And I think with that, though, you have to think about maybe, and this is kind of tragic.
Centre-back has one eye.
This is true. I think a number of players. The lawyer has one eye too, so yeah, so does mine. I think three different characters in this show only have one eye at this point, all of which occurred over the course of the seasons. Yeah, but really, it's like there's no way Danny DeVito is playing midfield without performance-enhancing drugs. So I had to think of is it possible that other people could be like this? And the answers were, George Best kind of, and the sad one is Gaza. And so, yeah, I think that's where it comes in, that you do have a history of soccer players maybe getting a little bit too into alcohol or drugs, and I think that's why you can have some of these guys out there on the field for you in the Always Sunny 11.
So you ready to move on to midfield?
Absolutely.
Can we start with defensive midfielder?
Sure.
I've got this sneaking feeling we may have the same guy, so I'm going to ask you to go first.
We might have them flipped around,
okay.
I guess, but I've got Frank Reynolds.
As your defensive midfielder?
Yes.
Okay.
And you've got Charlie Kelly?
I'm not telling you for at least another 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, so as I said, he's inevitably going to face a ban for testing positive for PEDs. Until then, he's basically a more unhinged, less fashionable Reno Gattuso. That's where I see him. Because he's tiny, right? He's very small, but you don't want to mess with him. You really can't knock him around too easily. In the gang wrestles for the troops, we learned that he will, the trash man will smash attackers with a trash can. He will cut them before he lets them get by. He obviously needs to be near Charlie because of their, quote, stupid, strange connection. And you can cast his stunt double.
So wait, does this mean Charlie's your attacking midfielder?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And you can use his stunt double to do his running and his physical activity. And I think in between, he's been shown that he can operate in a system and he can kind of run things from afar. We know he's a successful businessman, so I think he can lock down that defense and maybe with the assistance of some nose clams.
So my defensive midfielder is Charlie Kelly, as you guessed. The very obvious reason is that defensive midfielder work is Charlie work. It's very important, yet underappreciated. He can do all the little jobs like faking that someone's in the restroom, helping to fake the sounds of a carbon monoxide detector. Yeah. All these things are essential to the good running of a soccer team. And just like how Florentino Perez underappreciated Cloud Makelele, the ultimate defensive midfielder, Charlie work goes massively unappreciated. He can also get aggressive when he needs to. He can bash down attackers like so many rats. He will also slap your face off of your face if you cross him.
Slap your face into a jelly.
He's not just your average stay-at-home number 6, right? If he plays the wild card, he's capable of stepping out of his defensive midfield role, joining the attack. The opposition won't see it coming. It'll be a huge surprise.
And if you need unencumbered attack, which is part of the reason why I have him as an attacker, you can cut those breaks, and then it's just all-out attack.
Wild card, baby.
Yep.
2 more points. Charlie knows that if you're doing good in the game, you're doing good in life.
Yeah,
so he's going to be committed to being a good soccer player. Best of all, unlike so many Brazilians, he won't be tempted by a move to the Chinese Super League because A, he's happily living in squalor, and B, he's incapable of learning any Chinese language.
We've learned that. He speaks gibberish. He also has only, I think, ever been outside of Philadelphia when they went to the Jersey Shore.
Out, right?
That's it, yeah. He will, and then I take that back. One of the reasons why I have him as my attacking midfielder is because he batted 1,000 after drinking 70-plus beers on a cross-country flight, which was done in that episode to replicate the performances of Wade Boggs. Although, again, that sounds a little bit like George Best to me. So that's why I have him as an attacker in my lineup. But do you have any more for him as a defender?
I do not.
All right.
So we switch to Charlie Kelly, attacking midfielder.
Yes. So first of all, as I said,
We've both got the gruesome twosome.
We sure do. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, so the Charlie work one is instrumental in this decision, right? Because it's one of the ones where we see a gang member really running. It's weird to keep calling them gang members, really running everything. And that's what we see. He can run multiple scenarios and do so successfully, which is a rarity for the gang. It comes off successfully in the end.
This is when there's a health inspection.
Yeah, the health inspection, and they're pulling off the stakes for air miles scheme. And also he gets the joke stool to work so that D collapses. 3 schemes at once, and he pulls them off. He's capable of disguising his true intentions, as we see when he pretends to have cancer in order to get the gang members to get him a date with a waitress. Charlie and Dee find love. Again, he uses a wealthy heiress to gain the affections of the waitress, so he can kind of...
He's crafty.
Yeah, so he can disguise what he's trying to do. He'll play those through balls in and no one will see it coming. And he's quick on his feet, and he won't need much in terms of salary. He just needs to make some energy balls using, I believe, flour and milk and one other substance. That's all he needs. That's all he needs. That sounds about right.
So my attacking midfielder is Frank Reynolds.
Obviously.
So I've got the gruesome twosome too. Yeah, the reason I think Dan DeVito, Frank Reynolds is the best attacking midfielder, first of all, he has a low centre of gravity, like all the best attacking midfielders, like Diego Maradona. Second is he can always see an angle.
Yep.
Whether it's pimping out Dennis, eating your drinks, rum ham, opening a sweatshop in Vietnam, or the Magnum condom scam. Yeah. He can always see an angle. As you mentioned earlier, his drug use leads to some mind-expanding moments. He can see things in a way that other people can't see, like, what if all this is the dream of a turtle?
Obviously.
You've got to consider that. If he's as creative,
very important.
If he's as creative with a soccer ball as he is with food when he's with Artemis, then look out.
Oh, God. Let's just leave that unsaid.
Best of all, he's not afraid to shoot. I want my attacking midfielder to take some shots. Frank always carries his Smith & Wesson Model 19 snub nose. I researched it. And he's ready to shoot in any situation, even to try and put out a grease fire.
I think that might be one of my favorite moments of Frank Reynolds' entire history, is when he's told there's a fire and he runs into the bar just with his gun out screaming, "Where's the fire?" as though that's going to take control.
Also, like all the best number 10s, Frank will be taking free kicks for my team. His botched toe, caused by the toe knife.
Yeah, obviously.
He's done a botch job.
That's a botched toe.
Yeah. Causes wicked spin. Wicked spin. Better than David Beckham. Just unpredictable ball movement when he strikes a free kick.
And it heals up in a couple of days.
Yep. So he'll do it just before a game, then get it on. The only thing we have to watch out for with Frank is we have to hope he doesn't get anxious before the game and flush his cleats down the toilet. Other than that, he's the perfect number 10.
Flushing stuff helps him find balance, I believe, is roughly the quote there. I see you watch some Charlie work, is what I'm getting here.
It's my favourite episode.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Before we move on, we have a real sponsor on today's show, not Wolf Cola or Lethal Weapon 6. And the real sponsor is SeatGeek.
Oh, right.
It's SeatGeek. SeatGeek have come along and created an amazing app that makes it easier than ever for fans to buy and sell tickets.
That's right. SeatGeek is also a great place to turn if you're looking for tickets to a sold-out event or one that's really difficult to get tickets to. For example, since we're talking about TV shows and maybe characters that have been spun off into live performances, they did a live performance of The Night Man Cometh. The gang did. I'll say Oh Hello, starring John Mulaney and Nick Kroll. I know we both have enjoyed the Kroll show. I know we both love the stand-up of John Mulaney, if not John Mulaney's television endeavors.
So if you open the SeatGeek app, you can't find events that have already happened.
Yeah.
Like the live Night Man Cometh.
It's true. But I tried.
Did you find Oh Hello in the SeatGeek app?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Playing at the Lyceum Theater in New York. I don't know if that's on Broadway, but they say Oh Hello on Broadway. So it might just be part of the joke. Who knows? I'm
kind of tempted. Like, I know we look at things when we read the ad, but I'm kind of tempted to drive the 6 hours to New York. Or I'm kind of tempted to ask someone else to drive the 6 hours to New York.
There it is.
All right, so I opened up the app recently. I want to look for something that was outside of my normal wheelhouse. I've been listening to Run the Jewels. I only recently discovered them. I'm not a big hip-hop guy because I grew up in the 90s in England where it was all Oasis and guitars. You know what I mean? But I slowly just accidentally happened on something. I'm like, oh, I like this.
Yeah. Was Dizzy Rascal early 2000s?
Yeah, I was already here by the time Dizzy Rascal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like 2005-ish is Dizzy Rascal, right? So, Run the Jewels. Run the Jewels are playing in January and February. They're coming not quite to Richmond, but they're going to Norfolk. They're also going through North Carolina, Pittsburgh, DC, and then up to New York. So you can find tickets for Run the Jewels on the SeatGeek app.
And best of all, our listeners can get a $20 rebate off their first SeatGeek purchase. To get that $20 rebate on tickets, download the SeatGeek app, go to the settings tab and click add a promo code, enter the promo code TSS. That seems logical. SeatGeek will send you $20 after you've made your first ticket purchase.
So download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code TSS today.
There we are. Should we get back to our Always Sunny 11s?
Yeah, so where were we? We got defensive midfield, attacking midfield sorted out. We'd both gone for the gruesome twosome, but in different configuration. It's interesting. It might be like a Gerard Lampard situation.
I think so.
We have to figure it out. I guess next is our wingers. Taylor, which wing do you want to start with?
I'll go on the left.
Okay.
And coming in from the left wing, as he so often does, it's Matthew Mara.
Rickety Cricket.
I was hoping you'd say who, so I could angrily say, it's Rickety Cricket.
I know.
Yeah, his cameos tend to come out of left field, but they always have an amazing impact. He's a proven survivor, as we see in the Manhunters episode when Mac and Dennis decide to hunt him, that he can escape. Like, he's very fleet of foot. He can also use parkour. So he can jump over buildings. He can jump obstacles. Yeah. He's very quick, so he's going to be difficult to nail down. He's a crafty fighter who will deploy dirty tactics. We saw when the gang wrestles for the troops, he'll blow sand in people's faces. So he'll get in your heads that way, and he'll use deceptive deceptive tactics because on the street, you have to fake it. And no matter what, he survives. And that means he's like never going to be bad enough to get transferred. It's never going to be that bad. He will always survive. He will always find a way to redeem himself, even if it's at his own physical or mental expense.
Okay, my left winger is, I don't know her real name. We just refer to her as
the waitress. She has no real name. And she is not Nikki Potnick.
I've researched that too, yeah. And we know her name does not begin with W, so her real name's not the winger either. But that's what we're going to be calling her. The waitress is presumably the only member of this entire TV show that's any good at serving anything up.
Yeah,
right. None of the gang are good at working behind the bar. The waitress is a professional waitress. She'll be serving things up. She's hardworking and multi-talented. She's also worked as a carny and in the food delivery business. She will keep her distance from Charlie in central midfield, which means she will stick to the left wing. So she'll naturally give us width by staying nice and wide away from Charlie. I'm also, spoiler alert, going to have Dennis up front. So she'll be looking to serve things into Dennis to impress him.
That makes sense. That all makes
sense.
She also,
best of all, she won't be distracted by internet gossip or Twitter trolls because she doesn't have the online.
And she doesn't use the emails.
Exactly. So we'll have to, I guess, make sure she knows what time the games are.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of like face-to-face correspondence, I think.
So who's on your right wing, Taylor?
On my right, I'm going to continue the pattern of my midfield being absolutely insane because I've got Rickety Cricket, I've got Frank and Charlie, and now I've got Bill Ponderosa.
Bill Ponderosa?
He's at his best.
He's not in great shape.
He's at his best when he's around Frank, though. Okay. Frank also not in great shape. So you want them in the midfield. Again, you're going to have an issue with PEDs, but we'll deal with that when it comes. He's not afraid to scrap and will cause disorder in the opposition. He will throw bath salts into their water bottles if that's what it takes to get the result. He's happy to share his possessions, be they his car or his drugs, when necessary. So that means he's a good teammate. He's willing to share the load. He's not going to be overly selfish. But, you've got to deal with some of that, a little bit of that Ponderosa insanity. The other downside is, of course, that he's going to make Dee gag whenever she sees him because that's what she does when she's around a cute boy.
Well, speaking of Dee, Dee is my right winger.
All right.
Here's why. One very simple reason. She will fly down the wing.
Yep.
I don't know if you've noticed this, Taylor, but she does
looks like a bird?
A little bit like a bird. She will fly down the wing.
She looks like a big, fat, flightless bird. I was thinking fish recently.
The downside is she'll dive and she won't win any fouls because she's a terrible actress.
That's right.
She also has size 13 feet, so she may not be the most graceful winger around. But she will fly down the wing because, I don't know if you've noticed, she looks a little bit like a bird.
I think one of my favorite random bits they've ever done, on a side note from this, is with the Who Got Dee Pregnant Halloween episode where they keep showing the story from different people's perspective as they're browning out. And it starts with her dressed as an angel. And they're like, why would you dress like a bird? Because she has the wings on. And it slowly progresses to like Charlie's memory is that she's in an angel costume but just has yellow feathers stuck to her. And it ends with Mac remember her as being a literal ostrich. Like an ostrich walks into the bathroom. So good. Before we move on to reveal our strike force, both of our strike forces, just going to let you know that today's show is also sponsored by Kitten Mittens with 2 exclamation marks. Is your cat making too much noise all the time? Is your cat constantly stopping around driving you crazy? Is your cat clawing at all your furnitures? Think there's no answer? You're so stupid. There is! Kitten Mittens. Finally an elegant, comfortable mitten for cats. Thank you to Kitten Mittens for sponsoring today's episode. All proceeds go to the lawyer. And is your cat one-legged? Is your cat fat, skinny, or in between? That doesn't matter, because one size fits all. Kitten Mittens. You'll be smitten. All right, Taylor, who's your strike force? Who's your always sunny strike force? I mean, it's got to be Dennis and Dee. Dennis and Dee, all right. Because, as Charlie McDennis showed us, they always win. They never lose. They say it in the video when they're trying to sell it to the guy from Mattel, spelled incorrectly. Putting them aside for a second, like separately, strikers can be lone wolves who are often overly aggressive and diva-ish. That is Dennis Reynolds to a T. He will have, Dennis, insane plays drawn up that ensure he scores. I love the Dennis system. So you know it's going to be this crazy whiteboard system to prove that he can get the result on attacks. And he is Diego Costa-ish in that he will cheat and manipulate to earn a result. And why D? And D, because she's already been through pregnancy, which can increase performance, as we've learned.
As it did with A-Rod, right?
Yeah. She tends to do better when she's on the offensive, but struggles defensively. She really can't defend herself against those bird attacks. But going forward, she again, has proven that she can score herself. She's absolutely ruthless when trying to get what she wants. She will berate anyone into submission. The downside is, and I don't know if you know this, Daryl, she looks like a bird.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She also has a tendency to crack under pressure, which could be a problem in those
heaves,
tight
right?
games. Yeah, or in the gang reignites the rivalry when she can't do the flip cup competition.
Flip it up.
Yeah.
Wasn't there an NFL player who also dry heaved before games?
I think there's a lot of people. I think it tends to be adrenaline triggers that. I played football with a guy who did that. He threw it before every single game.
Wow. All right. My strike force is the dynamic duo.
Yep.
It's Dennis and Mac.
Yep.
So Dennis and Mac, mostly because we're going to operate on the Dennis system to score our goals. Mac is integral to the Dennis system, as we know. Okay, Dennis, as you said, he's a sociopath. He's selfish. He will break all conventions in order to score and look good. He has the stride of a gazelle, a beautiful gazelle creature. He also has a careful, systematic approach to goal scoring called the Dennis system. Here's how it works.
Okay.
D, demonstrate talent, maybe with a trick or two to impress the crowd. E, engage physically by roughing up a defender. N, nurture dependence by making the opposition defenders think the rest of the team are out to get them. And again, neglect emotionally by suddenly ceasing to talk to that defender, thus causing confusion. I inspire hope. Inspire hope by just dangling the ball out there, but then getting ready to pull it back with a skillful drag back at the last second. S, separate entirely from opposition defenders, using the stride of a beautiful gazelle creature to get away from the back four. Then, of course, Mac. There's Mac. Mac is key to the Dennis system, and he also has his own Mac system, move in after completion. So if Dennis fails, with his shot is saved by the keeper, Mac moves in, scores the rebound.
Okay, I like that. D has her own system. It just doesn't necessarily work the way Dennis's system does. Or work out as a correct anagram either.
But Mac
or
is
not anagram, whatever that is. I apologize.
Mac is basically a goal poacher, but he's also great at sizing up opposition defenders using his ocular pat down. He can body mass alone. He can easily size that up. He's a target man because, as you may remember from his argument with Charlie, he loves big crosses.
Yep, I do remember that.
Best of all, if he's having a bad game, you just sub him out, and bring in Country Mac. There you go. That's my strike force.
I like that strike force very, very much. Well done, my friend. I do also love that Dennis has been, by professional psychiatrists and mental health professionals, I've seen that he's been diagnosed with 3 different disorders, potentially. I think narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and maybe psychopathic tendencies, I think is the other one.
Great centre-forward attributes.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Do we have any more? Do you have any sort of extra people on the sidelines?
As an impact striker, I've got Schmitty, because he's going to swoop in at the end and scoop the waitress, like he does in the reunion episode. He's going to scoop in at the end if you need that to get that late goal.
Yeah, he's the guy you bring on in the last 10 minutes then.
But he can't be around the core members of the gang for too long, because otherwise they're going to turn on him. So you don't want that. You've got impact playmaker. I've got Artemis, Dee's friend, who's one of my favorite characters on the whole show. She comes in to light things up and get things going, and she's an innovator when it comes to positioning. My manager is Pappy McPoyle. He's gonna scream.
I'm not familiar with him.
Pappy McPoyle? Oh yeah, you are. He's in the Maureen Ponderosa Wedding Massacre.
Oh, okay.
And he's in the trial one. And this is the crazy thing. So do you remember the crazy guy with one eye who screams gibberish and he has the bird on his head in the trial episode? Do you know who that is?
No.
That's Guillermo del Toro, which is even more amazing. And as I recall, the gibberish thing was his idea. He just screams whatever he wants when he's in that character. And that's what I think you need from a manager. He's somebody who's going to be terrifying, and you're not really going to understand what they say, but it won't really matter because you get the idea that you better play well. Otherwise, his pet bird is going to rip your eyes out. So that's very important.
The only one I have is every good team needs a transfer committee.
Yep.
Kind of like Liverpool had, right? You have a group of people who gather around and decide on transfers.
Yep.
I want it to be the Paddy's Pub Congress because reason will prevail.
Reason will prevail. Until pickles prevail, I believe. And my final one, as a utility player, was the waitress, because she really struggles to lock down a permanent position in that she keeps getting fired. She's susceptible to deception, either from Dennis or from Frank, so you don't really want to put her in really critical positions, but she pops up when you need her to get things going.
All right. If anyone out there is an Always Sunny fan and a soccer fan and you've enjoyed this episode, maybe tweet at us. Let us know whose team you prefer.
Mine would be Dayman FC, and Daryl can have Nightman FC.
I guess that has to be now. Okay.
I think so.
I'll be the Nightman.
Yep.
Am I the master of karate, or is Dayman the master of karate?
Dayman is a master of karate.
Oh, dear.
You're sneaky and mean.
There we go.
In a Bob Dylan voice.
So I'm wondering how many people will have listened through to the end of this episode, because there is a Venn diagram of soccer fans and of Always Sunny fans, and I feel like there's got to be a pretty decent crossover.
Some crossover.
Yeah.
But we'll see if the podcast overlords get in touch with us to say that if we want to do a show like this again, we have to have Danny DeVito on, and that will show that it wasn't quite as successful as maybe we thought it was going to be.
But then ratings, download numbers would be exactly the same, but the show would still be better anyway.
Yes, this is
that
true.
fair?
This is very, very true.
So why is it that some people have a bit of a reaction against Always Sunny? Because I'll tell you my Always Sunny story is I'd seen like 5 minutes of it just randomly on my TV on FX when it was before FXX. And I thought, it's kind of gross. And then I turned it off, right? And then you pretty much like just kept mentioning it. Just kept mentioning it. And I was like, all right. And you gave me the season something 4, I want to say, DVD box set. And
Season
I was like,
3, I believe.
Season 3, okay. And I was like, all right, I'm going to watch this. And then I understood it. And I feel like all the grossness that's on top is masking, in a quick viewing, it's masking all the clever little things that are going on and the way things are like perfectly constructed. There's so much going on there that it's not just the grossness, right?
That's right, because I think a lot of times with TV shows, like Parks and Recreation, for example, if you watch the first episode and the last episode, Ron Swanson, for example, is completely unrecognizable because you have to have that growth in characters. And it's the same case with Always Sunny, that the characters are unrecognizable between the pilot episode and the most recent episode, but that's because they've gone so insane, and they've done that intentionally. So there's the season when Mac gets fat, and the actor just did that because he said that as TV shows get more budgets, or bigger budgets, they tend to get more attractive.
Everyone gets better looking, right?
Well, everyone gets better looking because they have more money for makeup, better wardrobe, better cameras to make people look better. And so he wanted to go the opposite route and make himself look as bad as he could. So you have weird moments like that.
And that gets to the heart of why I have come to really love this show, right? And I don't think we ever talked about this before. If you look at the story of how they got that show on the air and how they produce it, it's very, very independent, right? Like the guy who plays Mac, is it Rob McElhaney? It's sort of his idea, but they all sort of write it together. The cast essentially writes it together, performs it together. They're the producers, they're the executive producers. It's, even though FXX funds it and airs it, it's an independent production in many, many ways.
Yeah.
And I honestly see it as something like a model to aspire to in terms of the Total Soccer Show, right? To do things basically on your own terms and make it the way you want it to be, and don't compromise on anything.
Right.
Except having Danny DeVito on.
This is very
That's really the only thing they've ever compromised on.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they haven't cut too much, because I know the episodes in which Mac appears in blackface got some heat from the network, but I think overall they let it slide.
Right.
And I think there's other things that I do enjoy. I will say that you're right. It is a lot comes from Rob McElhenney's experiences growing up in Philly, including the McPolas are based on real people, which is terrifying. Yeah. But
I wouldn't want to play against their soccer team.
I would not. You turned me on to the Bullseye podcast with, is it Jesse Thorne?
Yes.
Is that what it is? And there was a great interview with Caitlin Olsen, who plays Sweet D.
Yeah.
And she was talking about one of the reasons why she loves the show so much, aside from the fact that it has, made her money, and also she met her husband, Rob Mac, is that it lets her be one of the gang. That she's not like the girl on the outside who's, these are my boys, I think is the line that she uses. That
they said the original thing was she would be the voice of reason. And she's like, no, I want to be just as insane as you guys.
Exactly. And I think that's why they ended up casting her, is because then she gets to have her own schemes and plans and be just as insane as everybody else, and it really works for that reason.
And Jesse Thorne had a great line at the end of that Bullseye show, which I really would recommend. He says, the reason that they're kind of charming and lovable, even though they're gross and terrible, is that they're at the bottom of the pile and they're always kicking up. I remember that was the phrase he used, kicking up. They're never kicking down, except maybe on Rickety Cricket. They're mostly kicking up, just trying to claw themselves up the social ladder in some way.
Yes. And that's part of the reason why I love it, is because they're always trying to do that by having a plan.
Right.
And it's one of my favorite things that happens in almost every episode, is at a certain point things are going wrong and they have to reset. And they come up with it'll usually be Dennis will throw out this okay, we'll do this, it'll be fine. And I just love how they reset the plan, and you just can tell right there that that's not going to work at all. This is going to come unhinged very, very quickly. And that makes me love it. And then I think the final thing I would say is that if you want to get into watching the show, a great way to do it is to go and watch the season 2 bloopers on YouTube, because what you'll see in the bloopers is how much of this is improv
Yeah.
and how much stuff comes about from them just messing around. And it's crazy to see, like, if it would be a scene between Mac and Dennis, so say it's you and me as Mac and Dennis, there'll be a camera on you, there's a camera on me, and then they just let it roll because the other person almost always breaks. And then they cut back to the person who's doing the thing that's making the other characters break. And it's amazing to watch to see just how much improv goes into the show.
All right. Well, final reminder that season 11 just hit Netflix. If you have that, you can watch all 11 seasons. Season 12 starts on the 4th, did you say?
Yes, Wednesday night.
Wednesday night, so that's coming soon. That's sort of the reason this was timed perfectly to do it Always Sunny 11. All right, Tyler Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. If you're an Always Sunny fan, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're not and you still listened, then thank you. We appreciate your time and your patience.
I can't imagine that was fun for you.
We will be back tomorrow with a more soccer-themed show.